Hello, my name is Jacob Schaefer, and today we'll be discussing a case study regarding a transferred employee within a healthcare organization. This case study comes from the textbook Leadership for Health Professionals, Theory, Skills, and Applications. This presentation is brought to you by Franklin University and is for my Healthcare Management Capstone course. On the agenda for today's presentation, we'll be discussing the following topics. A brief introduction into the case study we'll be reviewing and making an ethical decision on. My own personal management of the situation and why I would make this situation in real life. What the next course of action are after decisions are made to ensure that it does not become a reoccurrence and the organization improves. And finally, the ethical framework or distributive justice theory that correlates with my personal beliefs and decisions made during this case study review. To start off, we'll be discussing a brief summary of this case study. This case study begins with an organizational rebalance within a healthcare facility within the last 2 months. One of your new employees approaches you mentioning that his annual review is due and that it needs to be conducted. However, performance reviews were to be conducted by their previous supervisor prior to the rebalance within the organization. After discussing this issue with the losing supervisor, she said it is now your problem, and that any review not conducted within 90 days of being due would appear negatively on the losing supervisor's department. You discuss this with your new supervisor, who directs you to falsely adjust the administrative documents to state the transfer date was yesterday, and he will work with the losing supervisor to get the annual review completed as a 12-month review versus a 9-month review of the employee. This makes you uncomfortable, and you confirm the legality of the situation. You seek legal counsel to determine what you should do next. Legal counsel finds no legal ramifications with altering the information. However, you still do not feel that it is ethical. Next, we will be discussing how I would handle this situation in the event of a real-world scenario. To begin this situation, I would reconnect with the losing supervisor, mentioning that she still has 30 days to complete the 9-month review of the employee without any red flags being discovered, which should be plenty of time for the employee and the losing supervisor to complete this review. After this, I would reach out to my supervisor and explain my ethical baseline and why I will not be altering the administrative data. Finally, I will explain the rebalance situation with the employee and the rest of the staff to ensure everyone understands that their new annual review dates and how our department will be managed in the future. If there are any additional actions that must be taken to get this review completed, I will assist the losing supervisor and my supervisor to ensure the employee gets the correct review they deserve. During the next portion of this presentation, we will be discussing why I made the decisions that I did regarding this case and the transfer of the employee. To begin, I believe that my decision is the ethical and morally correct thing to do. Regardless of potential red flags and backlash from higher, getting the employee taken care of is the responsibility of the supervisor, which in this situation is myself. This is also an easy fix. If all parties work together to complete the review, it shouldn't take that much time whatsoever. The point of an annual review is to discuss how the employee performed over a set period of time. Since that employee worked for me for only 2 months and the previous supervisor for an additional 9 months, the losing supervisor should write that entire 9-month period review. I would pick up on my annual review beginning at the start date of the rebalance or the conclusion of that review. This would also correct any unethical decisions presented in the future and create an organizational climate that does not have issues doing what is right regardless of the ramifications. Following the explanation of my decisions, we'll be discussing the course of action that follow once the review has been initiated. To start off, the losing supervisor will initiate that 9-month review with assistance from the employee being reviewed to provide accurate analysis. After that is complete, I will begin to compile performance notes on the employee for the next 10 months so that I can complete the next annual review of 12 months in a timely manner. I will then have a meeting with my supervisor about my moral beliefs and why I do not feel comfortable falsifying administrative documents, regardless of how minor the details. Finally, I will continue to reassess the ethical framework of my department to ensure all employees have a good moral compass and that they know my beliefs as a supervisor. There are many different ethical frameworks or distributive justice theories that could be used for this case study. Next, I would like to discuss the distributive justice theory that aligns best with my decision in this case specifically. For me, I saw this case and my decision in this case as a situation for deontology, which means that whether the action is ethically good or bad is determined on a clear set of rules and guidance. Due to that 90-day window that the losing supervisor must complete the review by, and the fact that the losing supervisors were supposed to complete all reviews prior to the rebalance, is why I made my decision. This was the guidance given during the rebalance in the Human Resource Department's policies. To leave off, I would like to give out some final tips and takeaways to better prepare future leaders and supervisors in the event of an ethical or moral situation within your organization. Start by managing the situation in your own way. You are the supervisor, that's your decision. Next, you need to be confident with your decisions. Again, you're the supervisor, you are the leader in that situation in your department. Next, you're going to find your ethical baseline. If it doesn't feel right to you ethically or morally, then you need to make sure you're making the right decision that lets you sleep at night. And finally, stand your ground in uncomfortable situations. In this scenario, or in this case study, the supervisor was uncomfortable talking to his superior because they typically see it as a questioning of their decisions and thoughts. You have to be prepared to take on that uncomfortable situation and handle it the best way possible while also being professional. Thank you for your time and attention during this brief. I hope you gained some information regarding future situations of ethics and morals, and use the information you learned today to enhance your own organization.